Welcome to the Tastic in 3D podcast.
It's Tastic in 3D. Oh, it's Tastic in 3D. Yes, it's Tastic in 3D. It's Tastic
in 3D.
Boom!
Sync.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tastic in 3D episode number
41.
40.
Quarante.
Quattro.
One.
Zero.
Zero.
Quarenta.
Zero.
Quarenta.
Well, we got
41.
Fine, speak your foreign
Or
language. and show me
quarenta
up.
y zero.
Did you say 40 E1? You almost got it.
4 years of Spanish right here.
Are we really at 40? We are at number 40.
So we're not even at
I feel
41.
old now.
Nerdtastic in 3D is an entertainment industry podcast full of industry entertainment veterans talking about anything and everything that we find entertaining
things.
and or nerdy. My name is Jason Carter.
Adam McFarland.
Sean Fennell.
Sean Carney.
Jason Pecco.
Jack Eckler. And that's it.
And I think that was my cue to get the show started.
That's the crew. See ya.
Yeah, Josh is
I
out.
love that the Seans are sitting together. There's just something.
Best friends.
There's something just so right about this. Unfortunately, tonight our good friend Josh Zabrock can't be here because he's heading to Europa, the large continent known as Europa.
I'm pretty sure
That's
it's
European
still called
for
that.
Europe.
I have a question.
Is it?
I have a question. So, a continent.
That's not
Giant landmass.
Got it? Okay.
I follow
Right.
you.
So, a giant landmass. That's the way I understand a continent. So, Australia, Africa, South America, North America, those are continents. They make sense to me. And then you have islands that are generally just sort of associated with one. But then there's Europe and Asia, which is one very large landmass. But two continents?
Well, technically,
You see where I'm going with this?
North America, South America are connected.
Yeah, and I mean, they're connected, but it's like still you can. It's defined. They're connected by what? A tiny little strip.
A isthmus,
Panama.
if I may.
See, I think you
Say it.
Technically,
stutter or
Africa
you
is connected to
lisp.
Europa.
Yeah, but still,
Yeah,
again,
lisp.
they're kind of tiny connected. It's not like Europe and Asia, which share like an entire
Hey, as a kid, I
Where are the
imagined.
geography
longitudinal
nerds?
I imagined
line.
for years as a kid, if I went to Canada, as I got close to the border, there would be a huge red ass line that went down the landmass to say, "I'm on this side."
Have you
and
been to
I'm on the
Canada?
other.
Because there
And
is.
Is it-
Illinois
is it
was
really?
purple.
to Canada, America's hat.
I thought the United States
Yes.
were Canada's pants.
Or underpants.
The jokes would be
Under-
infinite if we really wanted to dive into the beautiful, wonderful world known as Canada,
Is Mexico America's beard?
Yes.
Is that what that is?
Hey, buddy,
Okay.
relax.
Absolutely.
much like yours. You're
It's
growing
getting out of
Mexico
control.
on your face. As I look over at him right now, he is growing Mexico on his face.
You know when you go to a sporting event, and people
Jason, tell us about that.
People
Yeah.
do the wave.
Okay.
You know where you stand up and you wave your arms, and
Yeah.
you do it in a systematic thing that gives the impression of kinetic energy.
It's not happening.
Nobody?
Jack.
So, so did you know in England that is referred to as the Mexican wave?
No.
Is that true?
I don't think
Ask,
that's
No,
No,
Look
it's
that up
not.
right now.
ask
No,
a
it's
person. No,
not.
ask a person who was born and raised in England, and ask them what the Mexican wave is, and they'll tell you it's that when you're in a stadium and people stand up and throw their arms up.
So
and,
what do
and
they
wave.
call the wave?
I don't think there is the wave.
The wave.
It's the princess wave.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
this.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's all
So
on the
I,
wrist.
I got some stuff I want to just dive right into. One of which I just did like 30 minutes ago before I got here to the show, and it wasn't buying Taco Bell for the group.
Oh, man.
Where's my
Thank you,
shout
by
out?
the
That's
way.
great. Thank you.
Delicious.
That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. Was
Bathrooms are around the corner, by the way.
iOS6.
Ah.
So, Mr. Kearney,
why do I know you're-
our token
Yes.
our token fanboy, let's hear all about it, buddy.
It's pretty awesome. Like, I gotta be honest. Hold on a second.
75.
That was such a perfect build-up. I loved it.
You introduced me as a token fanboy, but I will say I broke ranks and I bashed Apple on the last show, or as
You
much
didn't-
as I did. I
You were honest.
I'm
We
an
won't call
honest
it
person.
bashing.
Yeah,
We'll call
I
it
was honest about it.
You're
iOS
just
6
calling
is
them on their
awesome.
shit, right?
I was calling them on their shit.
Right.
But I also gotta call them when their shit don't stink, and it
Okay,
don't stink with iOS 6 because it's so cool. And this is why it's cool. is their maps feature. What they do best is they take something that already exists. They're like the Eric Clapton of
I'm waiting to hear where you're going to go with
OS
this because
manufacturers. So when you take like Jimi Hendrix, right? Like he created so many cool things you can do on a guitar. Eric Clapton didn't invent anything you can do on a guitar, but he does it so well. And that's what Apple does is they don't invent GPS. In fact, they take their readings from TomTom. But the thing they do that TomTom can't do is make it so freaking pretty. It's so nice. Their Maps feature is awesome and is the highlight of iOS.
you love the 3D view.
No. The 3D view is cool. The turn-by-turn navigation is
You have a
seamless.
4S?
I have a 4S.
Gotcha.
The
As-
only
as
thing I
do
don't
I.
like though,
As
there's
do I.
one flaw. I had a beta of iOS6. I've had it probably like 2 months now. Like there came a point about 2 months ago I was like, you know what, it's probably stable enough to put on my phone, and I wanted the Maps thing. So I put it on my phone, and so last weekend I was picking some friends up from the airport. And so it's cool because you can just go Siri, like, I need to go to the airport. And it'll go, boom, LAX, you tap a button, and now you're going to LAX. Unfortunately, it did not take me to the front entrance of the airport where most people go. It took me down. At first, when it opens up, it says, there may be some service roads you have to drive on. And I'm like, whatever. Why would you lie to me? And
Siri, do me no wrong.
so I start driving, and like everything makes sense. I'm on the 405 South. I'm exiting on Jeffrey. I'm like doing everything correctly. And then suddenly it's like, take a right. And I'm like, whatever. I take the right. It goes, take a left on Service Road 43. I'm like, let's do this, Siri. Why would I doubt you?
You've been to LAX, right?
Yes. but have I been the Apple
been-
way?
You've been
on
serious
service
way?
roads.
I've also, Jack, I've talked on a cell phone, but I hadn't really talked on a cell phone until I got an iPhone.
Until Siri told you how to do it.
So I was trusting that maybe Apple had this crazy way to get to the airport. Turns out I end up in a back, like alley almost, with a gate that has like two giant signs that say warning, any unauthorized visitors must leave now.
I
And
picture the planes like just skimming the
They
top
are.
of his car.
Oh my!
already
I'm
snipers
driving
on the roof
by
aiming
like
at 'em.
planes, like just full-on planes, and there's a mini fence separating me from like
He's coming at him
aircraft.
like a suicide bomber.
Yeah.
Like, take this car, take this
Take it
Corolla
now,
out.
take it.
And there were two things crossing my mind. One thing was, I should make sure that you leave the Maps app up, because then you can prove that the Maps took you here. And then two was, what terrorist drives a Volkswagen? And those were the two things that were going through my mind. Was like, it's okay, it's gonna be great, just breathe. And so I like flipped around, opened up MapQuest, and MapQuest with the same address too. It wasn't like they take
you to the same place?
Took me to a completely different place. Like, it wasn't like they both interpret LAX as different things. It's One World Way, Los Angeles, California, or whatever. It's the address.
So-
two different ways.
At what point did you just ignore the signs that said like passenger
Go
drop
back.
off?
Often.
Like
Often.
Turn around.
Turn
Often.
around.
Because he's
Because
like,
I wanted an adventure.
Dude,
I was early to
picture
pick up
you.
my
Oh,
friends.
all right, all right.
I picture you with the phone out while you're driving with one hand going, "Oh, sir, you're so like just staring at it and talking to her, going, "Siri, say it again."
No, it
right,
was
sir?
more like, this is, I was like, there's two outcomes of this. One, I get a new cool way to get to the airport. Option two, I have a great story I can tell everybody about Siri.
You can tell on the podcast.
So it worked.
So you were holding up your phone in your hand. Uh-huh. I met a woman last night who got pulled over by a cop for having on the 405 for having her phone in her hand. She swore she was legitimately browsing for music. She still got a ticket, and the cop cited the exact thing that says, he's like, "Is that a cell phone that can also play music?" And she's like, "Yes." And he cited a thing that said, in California, you are not allowed to have your cell phone in your hand. It doesn't matter what else it's capable of doing. It is illegal.
Oh,
to
really?
have
So
your
even
cell
with
phone in your hand.
GPS, they would be like, "Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
it's
a cell
like,
phone.
okay, well, let me get a little leg stand then.
Yeah.
You know?
Worst
That's
law
interesting.
Yeah,
Ever. Worst law ever.
I don't know about that.
I don't.
It's probably a good law.
In hindsight,
Worst law Worst law. ever. No,
Ever.
Worst law existing now.
the streetlight one.
What about
was
the one
worst
in
law
New
thing.
York about not being able to sell drinks over 16 ounces?
That doesn't affect me, so it's
So
I'm
I
neither
don't care.
in New York nor drink a lot of soda. So
So we're not thinking globally. We're not thinking laws
No,
across.
no.
We're literally thinking about laws that currently affect my day to day.
It's a
worst
law
law in the
that
world.
people accept this no cell phone law, even though there is nothing that I've yet to see a number that proves that what really distracts drivers is that they're holding a device, and not that if so you're sitting next to me and I'm having a conversation with you, I'm looking at you, and
That's
that's
your
more
first problem.
distracting.
You're already doing it wrong.
But
That's
no,
what
but
we're
it's like
putting
it's
out.
already covered. There's already distracted driving. So why did we need a specific one for cell phones? And it's a law that because it doesn't affect these people, they're like, oh, I'll vote for it. You know, or they let it go.
let me-
They should be
That-
rioting in the streets.
That's why we need cars driving themselves.
Yes.
Donkulous. You're too
So let me
confident.
ask you this. What I'm sure
Donkeyless
what
cars.
people are wanting to know about it, and you brought up the maps feature, which I was actually curious you brought up because somebody like Sean with his competing phone, what is Apple
Sean,
doing
neck
with
and neck.
their maps feature that Google hasn't done and isn't already doing very well?
They're doing nothing new, but they're doing everything so elegant.
They're
And
just
I'll tell you
doing it.
why.
They're doing it Apple.
So beautiful. No, it really is though. It's really like
Like
Apple
an
does
Android
what they
man
do
talk.
best.
You can go like
It
this.
sounds like they're doing something new because they're taking you on new adventures.
Well, other than sending you to the wrong place. So they do this one thing where they send you to unauthorized areas.
It's better because
go in the back door.
It never
Yeah,
takes
you
me
made
to the
it back
same
door.
place twice.
So you have a 4S?
Yeah.
So 4S has the panorama mode in the camera. Have you played around with it?
No, because the stupid beta doesn't have it. And I will tell you a flaw with iOS 6. I can't download the official version of iOS 6. I have to, because I have the beta,
It's like
in
wait
order
till
to
it update?
upgrade. Well, what I have to do is like do this convoluted thing on my computer where I find the actual
man.
file and install it on my phone, and it's super broken.
I
So
think Jay's
He's
checking
doing
it
it right
out
here.
right now. I have it on my
just
phone too,
discovered
and I
that I
haven't
have
played
it.
it.
I thought it was only the 5.
I thought that was one of the
And
cooler
this is,
features.
Well,
by
and
the way.
this creates 28 megapixel.
Is that only on
pictures.
the 5 or on the 4S too?
No, I
'Cause
believe
the
it's-
5 is a.
believe
doesn't
it's
the 5 have a
both.
better
no,
camera?
because it's still
Or does
this
the 5
is
have the
8
4S?
megapixels.
So it's the same
you
camera on
think
the 5.
Theoretically, yeah.
Now, Adam,
Yours is pretty
you,
high,
I
Sean.
could be
You
wrong, but I
had
think
this.
my phone does HDRI.
What?
Adam, you
Yeah.
had the.
It's got a pretty
panorama
crazy
mode.
camera on it.
Oh, when I jailbroke it?
Yes.
It was terrible.
Yes,
It
but that was back
terrible.
in like iOS.
Well, they
1.
do
there's
apps,
panorama
right?
apps.
There's apps.
Yeah.
But the problem is those never do a full res. Did it work?
Yeah,
Exactly.
dude, it's crazy.
The problem is those panoramic apps never do a full res
Exactly.
picture.
Right.
Like Photosynth is a fantastic panoramic app. But
Pass it around.
It comes out as like a super low res file. That, like
Exactly.
you want to print out. It's like I want to print out
This
this thing
giant
freaking
thing.
huge, and it's like
It
I
won't let
printed
you
it
do it.
out like this big. It kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's exactly like I have Photosynth and I love it.
Yeah.
Except when I want to show it to somebody not on my phone.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
It's the worst.
And I printed
okay.
I printed a couple out, and I think the best you can get is about 3 inches by 8 inches.
Oh,
Like,
is that just the size of the image it gives
It
you
just,
after?
it just
Yeah.
because it doesn't do. It's not taking individual full res shots. It's taking.
So you're just getting a half-assed
Oh wow!
version.
Yeah.
So are they
It's
going to
pretty
bring?
slick.
Is Apple's plan to bring Street View as well?
Oh wow, that is pretty.
I don't know. I mean, I think
that's an
the thing-
undertaking.
No, that is something that they would have to. I think Google's the only people who actually have that data.
Yeah.
Right.
And whereas they're licensing their maps from TomTom, so they do
Oh, seriously?
real-time
Okay, I didn't know
traffic,
that for
Yeah.
sure. I know
which
you
is
said
from
that.
another company, and then TomTom does the maps. But what they do is it's a full screen. You don't have like the little clock on
Right,
top.
right,
You have
right.
nothing but your map. It moves with you and kind of like zooms in and out depending on how close you are to your destination. And then it has, when you minimize to your home screen, it has on the top of the screen, it shows you like if a turn's coming up, even if you're not in the app, if I'm in any other app on my phone, even on the home screen, a thing pops up, and not only is there a notification saying, hey, turn left at 300 yards, but it is still in the style, like it comes up like a street sign.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's
No,
still
that's pretty
in the
cool.
style of the app, which is just, it's like all these little touches. Like GPS wasn't broken, but they took just everything, they just spiced up, just like they turned everything to 11, which is what's cool about it.
They turned the maps to 11.
They turned maps to 11.
Does the Google version have Street View?
Yes.
Built
Yes.
in? No, the one the app does.
Yes.
Yeah.
It may be a separate app, but
No,
calls
it does
immediately.
because the guy who sits next to me, he's a huge
he
Apple
is
fan as
Google.
well. David's a huge Apple guy, and he that actually irritated him a little bit because he uses Street View a lot. So he was showing me just a way to go to the Google homepage for Maps and then add it to your. Basically, it's just a link on his.
It becomes an app.
Yeah, it just became an app.
Yeah,
He's like,
like a
I'm gonna
web
do this for
clipper.
a bit. Now I can see the nav though. The nav was pretty nice, and if you're gonna use it as that, if you don't have it in your car, but it
And
sounds like
tied
you're
to
gonna get a
Siri.
ticket if you use it.
Well, no,
You just got to slap it on
You
the.
just slap it up there somewhere. Hey Siri, don't get me a ticket.
Siri,
Is there a
yeah,
cop
right?
behind me, Siri?
Siri, drive my car.
And
for me.
actually, yeah.
Are you ever tempted to go serious?
Never.
No.
you serious?
It's not allowed.
Carter.
I just was curious. I'm never tempted to do that. I didn't know if you guys
They'll
were.
take my Apple fan card. if I
So,
do that.
so there was an article. Change topics a bit. There was an article last week that I read, and I'm glad Jason backed me up on this. I read the article twice. It was just so. There's no other way to put it. So fucking. It was so fucking cool
It's out there, man.
that I read it twice because I wanted to use it on the show.
And
But I
did-
still felt fucking dumb after I read it, and I'm reading this. I'm like, God, I'll talk to the guys about it. Maybe somebody will get it because I can't. And I'm not the dumbest apple, but I'm like, I could probably get this. So I told Jason, I'm like, hey, Sean posted this topic I wanted, and Jason goes, dude, I read that and I can't make anything out of this, but it's awesome. So Sean, talk about this.
This is the learn how to solve any Sudoku puzzle in like 2 seconds, right?
Really?
I had no idea how to do it.
That's very interesting to me.
I'm super into those.
Yeah. I
So
love Sudoku.
apparently NASA has a very small group in its lower, just like kind of buried away
Basement.
somewhere,
Yes.
that is seriously investigating warp. drive
Seriously?
technology. Yes, seriously. Investigating warp drive technology. Yes, the warp drive technology that you see in the Star Trek shows and movies. and
Which
so
blew
forth.
me away because even their theories are based even on what they were trying to portray in the movie, which blew me away. I thought it would be something completely different, but no, it's exactly, hey, Scotty,
Beam me up.
the whole works. Well, not so much that, jackass. But fucking,
Did you read the article?
So
no, he
Hey,
didn't
Scotty,
touch this.
beam me up just was the saying. Yes, I did try to read it. And I,
Yes, I tried to read it.
I knew some of the words.
That was a problem. We all tried to read it, but
I knew some of those words.
I read it. Understanding it was a completely different story.
thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sean, try to explain it
So
the
let
best
me
you
see
can.
if I can explain
layman's terms.
the concept in layman's terms. The theory is that we have this very harsh speed limit in physics. It's in all of the math for physics. It's in all the models. You cannot go faster than the speed of light. Period. Once you do, well, you can't. And if you reach the speed of light, you burst into energy and become not matter anymore.
Sweet, you sound like a superhero at that point.
Yeah, right. But the theory behind warp drive technology is you don't move. You actually move the space around you. So what they're doing in NASA is they're trying to look for this little phenomenon called a warp bubble. And what a warp bubble is it's a warping of space-time. It's actually you take space and it's like you take a balloon and you squish it down, so it's a bit smaller, but it still has the same air and volume and stuff inside it. So it's smaller volume, but it's the same space. It's just smaller. So the theory behind it is you shrink the space in front of the capsule or ship or whatever you're trying to propel, and you expand the space behind it. And what that does is it actually moves you through space without changing your speed or velocity at all. So
Go ahead and fucking let that just roll around in your head.
So the
Now I
theory
understand
is
it.
your ship, you
brain
sitting
just
in your
melted.
ship or your capsule or your chair or whatever doesn't ever actually.
hope it's not a chair.
Doesn't ever actually change speed. What's happening is you compress space in front of you, and by doing that, you kind of fall through space, but you don't actually move physically, and you don't go faster than the speed of you don't. Go faster than the speed of light, but to the rest of the relative world, you are going 10 times the speed of light just because of the amount of distance that you're traveling by pinching space in front of you and expanding it.
It's an
behind you.
insane
It's
article.
crazy.
It's an insane article because at the end of you being logical and thinking about what you know of science and everything else, it does make sense that they're trying to do this. But it's just even the questions they were asking are things I've asked as a kid moving forward. And what frustrates me with the space program is that we have these huge dreams to go to these other places, but in all reality, and they bring up in the article,
It's not fun.
we would never have enough fuel. We don't have any kind of engine. Even they talk about in that article, even a nuclear engine could even remotely get us.
Nuclear engines, ion engines. What's that zero point
Well, they talked about-
technology that they're trying to discover?
In the amount of time that it would make it not a one-way journey.
Right.
They talked about that quite often. They're like, these things where we could send somebody out and that's their life.
We could
And
go
you would
really
never
fast.
know or hear about it or anything else.
We could go really fast with like these primitive, and I call them primitive because this warp technology is well beyond anything that we could invent that is a propulsion system. So you're actually moving something at a speed. Take 1,000 years to get somewhere. So you have to physically load up the ship with the
this was in-
sustainability to survive for 1,000 years, and I mean people being born and raising and for 1,000 years, or we investigate this technology, and if it's inventable, invent it, and you could get to the next Earth-like planet in
2 years.
Yeah, I thought the interesting thing too was that they said like the time that passes, both like
It's
in those
constant.
bubbles and in the ship, is the same.
It's
Yes.
almost the same. They say in the article it's the same for simplicity, but the closer you are to a gravitational field, the slower time goes. So you'll be going a little bit faster than time, but it's not like you go near the speed of light and time slows down so much that like everyone back home is 100 years older
Yeah.
when you arrive wherever you're going to arrive.
What was interesting was about the fuel too. They said the amount of fuel it would take to get anywhere like at that distance would be the size of Jupiter.
Yeah, it's
Completely
crazy.
impractical.
You know, I made pretty pictures today.
Yeah, that's how I felt after
Yeah.
reading it twice.
I think the one thing that fascinated me the most is how they go into how they're investigating this phenomenon and this technology. They're looking for really tiny microscopic warp bubbles. They're trying to actually produce these bubbles. And it kind of, when I was reading what he was talking about, it kind of reminded me of when they were trying to invent the telephone. And the first call was made from one room to another. That's really small and kind of unusable in a normal context. But that technology ballooned into what we have as cell phones today. So just
And
that
now-
tiny...
I call my wife from one room to another. So it all comes full circle.
You lazy
I just-
bastard.
I just want to know what the day-to-day of those guys researching that is. Like, do you think they show up? Do you think they look on Gizmodo? Do you think they, like, spend the first 30 minutes
I'm
of their
pretty sure
day
it
just
look- it's
looking
something
at
like
the
this.
blogs?
I imagine they have a really big glass thing with a lot of writing and numbers.
I think
and
they get
symbols and
totally
shit on
high.
it.
I think they come in probably high, watch episodes of Star Trek, and go,
Dude,
What did we miss? What did we
I
miss?
see.
But all that was based on. That's the cool thing about that show. Even if you're not a fan of the show,
was all
they
based on
brought all
some-
these futuristic and scientist guys in to be like, we
might
want to
we
do
doing?
this, but what could we potentially do? I don't know.
So
I
I
mean, we
need-
talk about warp drives, gold.
I need
What
to
else do we
ask
got?
I need to ask my uncle about because my uncle is a rocket scientist. He is legitimately.
Okay, no need to
he
brag.
designs rockets. But I want to
My-
ask him about like, does
My
he
uncle
know
installs
what
fire
this shit is going
sprinklers
on?
in Orange County. Saves lives. Whatever.
Both important jobs in the California
Yeah.
region.
It's very important.
I think your uncle could put my uncle out of business with a little bit of water.
So there we go. Can
Drop
I
the
pitch
mic.
you guys an idea that I have?
No.
So this is you were talking about how we need to repopulate, like we need to, let's say it's 1,000 years, right, to get to another planet, right? And we need to send people out there, and we need to like have a civilization, like a makeshift civilization. Here's my plan. All right.
Did this just
It's-
happen right now?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
called the sexy ship. And what it is, we send exactly because
Yeah.
we send people out and we're like, listen, you guys have one task. You're gonna be on this your entire life. You're gonna be on this like spaceship, and all you have to do is just procreate. We just need you to make babies nonstop.
So you're saying we send the Amish,
Yeah.
and we're gold
and just
because
do it. They
get
can
this,
take care of themselves.
They could. They need no electricity.
Self-sustaining.
But they will not get on that ship.
That's the hardest part.
They will not get on that
Where
ship.
do they
Teaching
build
them how
those-
to use the ship
Drug 'em.
and getting them
Yeah,
on the
it's
ship.
apparent.
Where do
Drug
they
'em.
build their little fireplaces? That's what I
you
want to know.
come
Where
into
they going
this
to be able to build those?
hangar, there's a barn raising in here.
All I picture are a bunch of ladies churning butter on this on this like $1 million ship, and they're just churning butter.
So Fennel,
So I wonder how quickly like the humanity would diverge if something like that actually happened. It would be like an alien race by the time
Like
they
the
got there, I
1,000
would
year,
imagine.
yeah. What they would become in 1,000 years aboard a ship, like
Crazy.
unrecognizable.
Crazy.
Yeah. Probably psychotic. if you
Probably.
think about it.
Or better than us. Like, what if they
Way better.
What if they get there and that society's just so good?
They're
'cause
already
they weren't
cyborgs.
watching like shitty TV.
They don't have all this like honey
They're
boo
like,
boo.
you know, all this procreation
intelligent.
stuff is great and all, but I don't really want to die, so I'm just
that
going to
one.
invent cyborgism.
Yeah.
Jason doesn't know Honey Boo Boo.
Oh,
Seriously?
Just let them live that
Yeah.
life. Live that life.
I think I watched. I just went thing there was like 40 of the best. They just took a screen grab of what the caption says.
So I wanted to mention, for me, I think it's amazing that you can understand that stuff, and thank you very much for putting it into terms that we can understand. I will say this, and I mean this as a 100% compliment. I think without you on the show, we would just be Tastic in 3D. I really do believe that.
I'm proud of that.
You should be. Like, I'm amazed. I love the articles you post. I actually really look forward to them.
I'm going to do my best to
was
support you because I
scared.
love the future stuff, man.
I read it. I was scared to post it because I was like, I'm not going to be able to talk about this right. There's going to be parts I miss out, and somebody's going to send me an email later going, Jack, you dumbass.
Guys,
Stop
be like,
talking
stuff,
about
stuff, time
Next
travel.
time you don't
next
understand
topic.
something, forward
Send
it
it
to
to Sean.
forward to Sean and say, "Hey, post this." Now it's your
I just
responsibility.
might. You come across the replicator technology, I'm all about
Jason,
it.
this
Stargate.
Oh, there you go.
Love it.
This wasn't
Star Trek.
specifically posted by you, Jason, but I'm gonna throw it your way because I know you know what you're talking about. It's something I was gonna post as well. So LG and Sony, from our big TV people here in the room, which I think is all of us, because why the hell wouldn't you buy a 60-inch TV at this point if you have a chance?
You're ridiculous.
Sony and LG are releasing their 84-inch 4K displays. Jay, can you talk about it?
Nope.
Okay.
I read the article like on. I think,
Adam's like, I read that one.
I read no.
Go to-
There
go
was
to Adam.
there was a second article
Coach,
about like
I could do
like what's the point of it right now? Is it ever going to be?
Well, that's my point to Jason. Yeah, I mean, it's other than me who just loves fucking big TVs to have a big TV in my living room, no matter what it plays.
Yeah.
But it's what Jay? What can play 4K images now besides this projector in this room we're in? Anything? I mean, you're not going to get that off a
talking
Blu-ray.
about-
The 4K display on both
times.
these.
Yeah. So I mean,
Which is actual, like, if somebody goes to the theater, so people know listening, when you go to a theater to watch a movie at, say, AMC, those prints that, say, DreamWorks or Disney puts out for the movie are at a 4K resolution to display on that screen, and they're trying to bring that home. But obviously, we're not playing those back on those kind of projectors.
Well, I actually think most common DCP packages are actually 2K. not
Yeah, I don't
4K.
think they're even 4K.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So they're releasing this technology, so I didn't know if there was something I was missing.
Well, I'll say
Other
this.
than it being an 84-inch like plasma, that you can have in your house.
Doesn't a 4K not make any sense unless it is 100 feet big? Because
the-
you can't even tell.
Right, the human eye.
Kinda, yeah.
If it's 52 inches, is that what it was? 52 inches or
so.
lower, the human eye cannot detect the difference between 1080i and 1080p. So like 720p, 1080p.
Yeah.
52 inches or lower, the human eye can't tell a
Really?
difference.
Depends on how close you sit.
And it's I
Yeah,
guess that's
yeah.
And how
very
trained you are. I mean, there's
But like
probably
a, whatever
some,
average living room.
yeah,
Your
average
grandma's
viewer.
like, oh, that's very nice. Right?
Yeah.
But
She's southern too, apparently.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you get bigger than that, then
All
you need to.
grandmas are southern.
Once you get bigger, you need to increase the resolution. So Jack, to answer your question, there's a lot of stuff that can actually play 4K imagery. I actually think the PS3 could probably play
Really?
back a 4K stream.
Holla.
But I
But
think
the media, I mean, they'd have to print the
Nothing-
media at that.
nothing's, but I don't
nothing's
think-
shot in it.
nothing's-
Well, that's-
well, okay, nothing. Things are shot in it now, like especially when you start getting like the Red Epics that all shooting at the all those shoot 4K.
And doesn't
It's-
film technically, right? Like
I
film would be.
think
There's
so,
no
but
consumer
actual
But
film,
there's no
35 mil.
4K.
That's a
Right.
resolution.
So there's
that
no
you get
delivery.
that.
There's going to be no delivery in that. So you,
Yeah, unless
the
you're
sl-
Michael Bay. You're not
I think the
getting
cable
4K.
providers are working on being able to provide that because I actually read an article about 8K and that's way down the line, but they're already working on it and it's super expensive right now.
What if they?
But they're
warped
working
it
on like
so that they could
providing
deliver
this
it to you
material.
Time Warner
cheaper?
like squeezes my bandwidth every time I do anything crazy. So like,
Sorry,
Well, I mean, they're going to charge you
what do they do,
$100
dude?
extra.
I don't know. They squeeze my, they squeeze it, and then they don't
Squeeze the
let any
cables.
more out when they squeeze it.
Oh.
They
Yeah,
jerk
I
me
would
off,
too
those
pinch
fuckers.
I can't stop once it started. It's
This
safe.
show brought to you by Time Warner.
Thank you for the subtlety.
But no, like that's going to be the huge thing. Is that's where the bottleneck is going to be?
Yeah.
Is any way to deliver that? So it's like, okay, can you really get that over existing lines? Like my coax line, that's been the line that gets television forever, is all of a sudden now going to be able to deliver 4K.
Yeah.
Like there's no way.
But you know what's funny is I think you can do up to 1080i over the air to an antenna. And it looks brilliant.
true.
Like
Yeah.
I had an antenna. I didn't have cable for the longest time. I did everything through Netflix and Hulu and all those
Yeah.
things. And so for local channels, if there was
Just over
like
the-
a fire or something and I needed to know about it, I
My
never
building
needed
was
to
on
know
fire.
about it.
You didn't
No,
check the
I had
internet.
I had Facebook,
No,
so
exactly.
that warned me if my building was on fire.
But no, I bought a $10 antenna and plugged it to the back of my HD TV, and it was beautiful. It's better than now I have AT&T Uverse.
Yeah.
And the signal was better with the antenna because it wasn't compressed to fit through my stupid phone line, which is what AT&T likes to use. And so it's like I think you could probably do if you had a good view of a mountain of Mount Washington,
Only certain people.
you could do
Exactly,
really
that's-
good 4K over the air stuff. So you've got to think if you're going to spend $20,000 on a TV, you might want to move.
I'm just saying, I'm going warp drive. If I'm going to spend my money, I'm going warp
I'm
drive.
investing.
The other thing is,
Maybe that's how they deliver their
Sean brought up is that yes, the Sony version of the TV is a cool $25,000, and LG's is just at $20,000.
But isn't that
if you're looking to buy?
Isn't
looking
that the
for a
kind of
TV.
thing where it's like, they're not. Neither of those people are expecting for this to be their bread and butter for any. It's a proof of technology. It's like when Bang & Olufsen released their 103-inch TV like 8 years ago or whenever they would do that, and it was $40,000.
I bought it.
I mean, obviously, I have too, but
Yeah.
that's just because I like that stuff.
And we're rich.
and loaded, and just doing this podcast for
Why
fun.
not?
What the hell?
Why?
Wait a second.
You two are sharing a microphone.
Loaded, but we're not putting
By
any
saying-
money into the podcast.
Yeah, but you were saying that we're just doing this podcast for fun, as if this podcast is our job, and that we're not even making the money that we make doing it for fun. You're like, no, this is what
Yeah,
we do. This
I don't
to
think
get
that was
paid.
an accurate statement at all. Not even at all.
Not close, Adam.
But needless to say, like it's like a proof of concept, proof of technology more than like ready for any kind of mass consumer.
Yeah, and that's what I took from. Other than, like I said, fucking
Fucking
sweet
cool.
TV to have in your living room.
Yeah.
And
If you can afford it.
upscale. You can do so the
Yes.
way that
Yeah,
the
it will.
PS3 does
Yes,
a
yes.
great job of taking DVDs,
Right, and it'll
putting
do
them on
that.
HDTV.
And actually, they
this
said
one would do Blu-rays.
the
to
LG actually actually both I think had a built-in up converter for that, so it'll take up any kind of image and it will up-res it. So what that quality looks like, I don't know. They probably had it at CES. I'm sure they'll have it at CES this year to check out. Jay,
What's up?
let's jump over to your industry a bit in a little article that you dropped, sort of this labor of love.
Yeah,
Go
for sure.
into it, dude. Let me hear a little about it.
Yeah, there was an article on I think it might have been Gizmodo Australia from the guys who made I think it's called Digging Dogs.
Digging Dog.
Digging Dogs, and their whole concept is digging dirt underground, and I think it's like rolling dogs into a
Sort of like Dig Dug.
No, more like Where's My Water?
yeah, more like
Okay.
Where's My Water,
Okay.
and that's what the article they mentioned in the article that after Where's My Water came out a couple months ahead of time, and they've been working on this game for like 3 or 4 years or something, and for them this game was a labor of love, just like for us Where's My Water was a labor of love. And it was really interesting to me that Where's My Water to them was like this thing that they kept getting compared to because it had come out before. And the same exact thing had happened to us with Feed Me Oil and Sprinkle, where we released this game, and just a month before, another fluid physics game had come out, and so we got a lot of comparisons. And I just thought it was really interesting because in this industry, especially on iPhone and Android, there's so many people developing that chances are if you have an idea, somebody else has had the same idea, and it's just a matter of executing and getting it done and doing it as well as you possibly can.
So I currently have 4 ideas that I've actually taken into like prototyping or like working on that were precursors to things, including Angry Birds. I had the idea a year and a half before the game was actually released.
Yeah.
Get a better name for it too.
A hot chick toss, and then the location
Should still make that one.
Yeah, I think that was a good one.
location-based alarms, which came out in iOS 5.
I remember that talk. That was actually a good idea.
But yeah, there's been several of those instances, and you're right. It's 100% because that particular market is just so incredibly saturated with developers.
Yeah,
I
and
had a very similar situation where I wanted to make the first 3D animated film, and then Toy Story came out. And totally reversed. And that's actually a
Pixar!
true story.
Now,
Yeah.
what's funny you bring up the movies. I was going to say that how movies are exactly the same way, because every time something's getting ready to come out, Surf's Up was happening at Sony, but at the same time, Happy Feet was happening, and there was somebody else was actually thinking about a Penguin movie at the same time too. Never fails.
March of.
yeah,
Seriously, never
what
fails.
happens-
When one studio is doing
Yeah.
it, you guarantee 2 others are doing something exactly
and do
like
you
yours.
think it's a collective mind share, like everybody? Because if you look, because I would say specifically to this room that Shrek, Monsters Inc., Shark's
Oh, sure.
Tale,
Keep going, yeah.
Finding
They
Nemo,
all-
like and
exactly.
Ants,
Bugs
Bugs
Life.
Life. Like, are
Yeah.
those things that really are like that, or does somebody know? Somebody moves jobs and kind of goes, "Oh, they're doing
think
that
in the-
thing."
They have to know. They
In the
have to know.
In the beginning of especially the DreamWorks Pixar relationship, I have no inside information on this, but my assumption is that it was malicious. That it was, as DreamWorks was starting, they were looking at what Pixar was doing and intentionally like making something similar for especially for Ants, Bugs Life, and Shark Tale, Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
I think I think that's about where it stopped, and anything since then has been more coincidence, if anything. But I do believe in the beginning there was some maliciousness there.
Yeah, I think what ends up happening too, and this obviously isn't talked about, and they're technically not supposed to do this, and Jay can even go into experiences he had at DreamWorks trying to pitch ideas, is ideas and scripts come across their desks all the time that they conveniently, as I'm air quoting, choose to not go with. Yeah. But you have at that point shown this
right.
to a producer and a creative executive who, if he passes there for whatever reason he chooses to pass, it's still in his head. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when they go to a pitch meeting or something comes up, it's just in my head, it would not surprise me that a lot of the times it's these ideas that had came across the desk. Maybe the script went to say, let's use this example, went to Pixar, and Pixar said, I'm in. Now that idea might still be fresh in that guy's head, and whether they know about it or not says, all these other guys are crap. He's like, there was this one idea about, fish, and this was really cool. And just because he didn't think it was cool, the rest of the room might think it's a shit. And because he was a dick and never showed, say, Jason's script to everybody else to see if they'd like it, all of a sudden now it's back in play. Right. But it's not Jason's idea anymore.
I think
it's this guy's idea. Yeah.
And most of those things, the individual person who pitches ideas is more protected than you think, though. Mm-hmm. Because what happens in that situation is if I took a script to a studio and I, officially pitched it, they have the option of purchasing it, the idea from you, or passing on the idea. And a pass isn't just like, no thanks, we don't want it. It is a written, formal, legal document that says we officially pass on purchasing your intellectual property. And so while I'm sure there would be a legal battle for sure, and like if you were to pitch against a Disney, I mean, they've got millions of lawyers, your wife being potentially one of them at some point.
And was and is and will be.
There probably would be a legal battle, but I think that the individual is more protected than you think.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
loose. Not exact. You know what I mean? Like a loose interpretation. If I came to him with the shark movie, but then the idea sounds cool, but then one exec goes, man, but it'd be awesome with whales. Mm-hmm. Right. If we did killer whales instead of sharks, this would be the shit. And guess what? It wouldn't be Jay's anymore. It'd be ours. Right. Yeah. Who's in? Oh, I'm into the whale movie.
Well, certainly
it's like a whale movie.
Certainly, it's hard with any creative industry because there's interpretation, right? So in any legal battle, there's a certain subjectiveness to it that really comes down to the craftiness of the lawyer being able to convince a jury and a judge on where fault really, really lies. So that's where there's creation and creativity in our court and judicial system.
I'm guessing though the whispers are much more prevalent in our industry than Sean and Jay, like your industry. And that's what's fascinating, where people are doing the same shit at the same time. But you probably know, unless you guys are putting betas out and talking to mutual friends in the industry, they don't know that you're working on the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and one of the other, I think, interesting implications, like for water, like that was pretty much under lock and key for people within the company. Like you show your girlfriend, your wife or whatever,
but they're not blogging about it.
Yeah, exactly. They're not blogging about it, and we didn't even know if the game was going to be as successful as it was when we were developing it. But the interesting thing too is we were supposed to originally ship in August, and we didn't feel the game was ready yet, so we got another month. And when you think about it, keep pushing. If we would have pushed the game back 3 more months because we didn't think it was ready, we would have shipped after Diggin' Dogs. And that's the same thing as like Fez. They had the luxury of like 5 years to continue to push it out and stuff like that. But and maybe the indie scene might give you a little more leeway. But if you're talking about iOS games, you're going to run into that if you keep pushing out and pushing out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there is a thing like we aren't supposed to. If somebody has an idea for an app, I'm not supposed to listen to it. And if you, and God forbid, you email me or like link into me, and I, and I don't know you, and you're like, hey, I got this great idea for an app. Let me tell you about it. I'm supposed to direct you straight to Disney Legal.
Oh, really?
Because of that, strictly because of that, and it actually saves me. And I think Jay's done this once or twice too. So when you make apps, everybody wants to pitch you their damn app, and at first it's kind of charming. And after a while, it's the most annoying thing when, like, the guy at Trader Joe's is like, oh, what's that shirt you're wearing? It's like, oh, I work for Disney. I make these apps. And they go, oh, man, I have this great idea for an app. And it's the best that I can just go, I can't listen to it. It's like a legal thing. And it's perfect. My wife was getting a massage. She was like, Sean, I'm going to kill you. and I'm never going to mention what you do for a living anymore, because she was getting a massage, and the masseuse was like this woman, and she's like,
Nonstop.
what do you do? And my wife goes, oh, I'm a preschool teacher. And she goes, oh, what does your husband do? And she goes, oh, he makes video games. And oh my God, I love video games. So I play World of Warcraft, and I do this.
God.
And she's like, I just want to be peaceful. And now this person talking my ear off.
You know, it's funny. There's a situation where actually your guys' entire team came to a restaurant where I knew the chef and introduced you guys briefly. I don't know if you remember. This is about 6 months ago. And I happen to know the chef there. And the
Burger
chef,
King?
No.
Where do you know a chef?
That's what I was thinking too.
Where do you know a chef?
Is it the Master Chef?
Don't worry about it. And then it's not crucial to the story.
Was it here at the kitchen?
It's
Yeah,
not, it's not,
this is now, but I know you, and now I'm really curious.
Both me and Adam, who hang
maybe-
out with Jason all the
maybe
time,
this
are
is for later.
stunned.
But
What chef?
but the chef, after having met you guys and you went and sat down, came up to me and was like, do those guys make apps? And then for 15 minutes pitched me an idea. And I'm like, don't even make those kind of apps. Like, they make games, not like utilities. And I'm
Yep.
Like, I got a cooking app I need you to make.
yeah, it was
chef
it was,
app.
It was awesome.
My neighbor pitched me an app, and no joke, she pitched me, it was a game based on a TV show, and I was in the middle of pitching it. So it was a Disney-owned show, and I was pitching a game based on this show, because it had
Already.
like come down from above, hey, we should do a game based on this, and I was talking to the show creators like, oh, we could do this, we could do that, and she pitched it, she goes, you know what, you should make a game about this show, da-da-da-da, and I finally was like, I really can't talk to you about this, because I was like, God forbid,
One
at
of those
the same
ideas-
exact time, I'm actually making this stupid thing, it comes out, and then she's like, I told him about that, I want my piece, you know?
That's America for you.
Crazy
Just don't talk
ass
to anybody
shit.
ever.
Everybody wants
No,
their dollar.
that's
Hey,
why I stay indoors and play video games.
I'm with you.
But I will say that it's a little bit different. Like you were saying that it's different in our industry and the whispers aren't as loud. I'd say it's different for us specifically. One, because we're working on iOS games. If we were working on Call of Duty, for
Yeah.
instance, that stuff is really tight-lipped. And I have a couple friends who work for developers that do Call of Duty games. And, you know, when I'm talking to somebody about what I do, I'm always working on stuff that's already out usually.
Yeah.
It's really easy.
No, they're insane with
with
that
them,
stuff.
they're very
we
quiet.
we
and
saw it
they're,
at
you know,
we
yeah.
saw it at E3 with Mike. I mean, I have a good friend at Naughty Dog. I have guys at Infinity Ward and Treyarch and those studios. And my friend Mike at Naughty Dog, he was my goddamn roommate for years and one of my best friends. And we're talking to him, and I'm like, "What are you working on?" And he's just looking. And he knows I'm not in that industry. He knows I'm not going to blog about it. And he's like,
You do have a podcast.
"I do," but we were
You
very
just mentioned
clear.
his name on said podcast.
But we were very clear. I just said Mike.
Mike
At Naughty Dog. An artist.
So if anybody's listening from Naughty Dog, he was good and didn't tell us shit. But it's always interesting to see them go. You know, close friends of mine go that far. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to talk about your project. Is there something? And it turned out I was just like, is it cool?
Yeah.
And he's like,
He's
yeah,
like,
it's
I
pretty
work
cool.
for Naughty Dog. Of course it's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think?
And no, that's what he said to me. He's like, we're
Name
working
one
on
thing we
something
haven't
cool.
done. That's good.
You know, speaking on like people like grabbing stuff and different projects and creativity within the industry. Adam, dude, you posted something that I thought was awesome, and it was this chart of the waning creativity in the film industry.
Yeah.
And we all knew. I think we all knew to some extent. Man,
it
there's
was in
all
our
these
gut.
sequels.
Yeah.
But Adam, do you want to talk? I mean, I have it up
Well,
here too. Do you want
if
to
you-
talk about the chart at all?
Well, I was gonna say I can't remember the specifics of it, but it was back in the
From 81
'81
to 2011.
to 2011. It basically compared the top 10 grossing movies of '81 to the top 10 grossing movies.
Well,
of,
and original films versus non-originals.
So the list was top 10,
Right.
and then it color coded it based on original, remake, or sequel. And what was it? 8 of 10 were original in '91, and then
81.
in '81.
81 was 7.
Right.
7 originals.
And then what was 2011?
That would be 0. 0. And actually,
And
let me
not
find-
original, not original. They were almost all sequels, right?
They're sequels and adapted.
What
sequels and
I
adapted.
love is the two what we'll call originals, which actually, to maybe some of us fanboys in here, I wouldn't even call them originals since they were based off of something already written. Were Thor and Captain America, which is the funniest part about this whole thing.
Adaptations.
Yeah,
Adaptations.
exactly. They weren't. I mean, 2011. It was Harry Potter 8. I just love seeing the 8 behind it. Transformers 3, The Twilight Saga 4, Hangover 2, Pirates 4, Fast 5, Cars 2, and Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Year of the sequels, man.
8 freaking movies.
Insane, dude.
That's crazy.
I bet you could say the same thing about the video game industry right
well,
now.
that was
though.
E3 last year, right?
How many
E3
Call of Duties
last
can you
year.
make?
Yeah, and everything's a sequel right now.
Everything's a sequel. Call of Duty
Risk.
8.
Here's what's funny.
yeah.
The only original story in the top 15 in 2011
that's what it was.
was Bridesmaids.
And the irony being, like, let's dive a little bit into Bridesmaids, and it's really Hangover.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have an interesting perspective on this. Go ahead.
Well, there was one other one that I want to throw into the mix that might add to your story here was what was really fascinating. From 2001 to 2011, it talked about 3 movies that were still supporting the ones in 2011, which are Harry Potter, Planet of the Apes, and my all-time favorite, Fast and the Furious, are still supporting top 10 movies in 2011. Insane.
So I think it's easy to look at the movies that are out there and go, man, where's the creativity? But I think if you look at the thought process behind it, I think you have to take inflation, monetary inflation into account. So in 1981, the actual cost of making a film was even like proportionally lower. Like, yes, the monetary amount of money was lower, but that compared to what the inflation cost was lower. Like, basically, it was cheaper to make a movie in 1981 regardless of how much a dollar amount was.
Well, they did have Raiders of the Lost Ark and Superman 2.
Raiders of the Lost Ark,
which were technical wizardry and effects.
But I will say, I think you're making a good point about that. It cost a lot less.
Yeah, and
I get you.
And so
you can take risks on new content.
Risks, exactly. Like right now, as a movie executive, I am going to be incredibly nervous. And let's take Disney as an example in 2011, because one of the things that's 2012 that's not listed on there. I guess this would be 2012 is John Carter of Mars. Mm-hmm. So John Carter of Mars came out, and I guess it was technically an adaptation, but it was an absolute flop for the company, so much so that the executive that greenlit it got let go. Wow. And so
sure, but the thought process there, I think, was still cashing in on modern times thing, and not so much the original. It was, here's a book franchise or a good story that we can make into multiple movies, which is sort of now the studios, right? Cash cows.
Sure, but it was still a risk. There was a risk involved in doing the first one.
Yeah,
like they wanted it, hey, if it can be a franchise, great, because that's a sustainable thing. But I think, like, I just watched Moneyball the other day, and I thought, man, that's like a really original story is really good. But I was like, those movies, they seem to be fewer and far between, and it's because it costs $150-300 million to make a movie.
Mm-hmm. And I look baseball with a ton of dialogue. Like, you know what I mean? There's like all these things that you're ostracizing people on with a movie like that.
Well, and it's like that type of movie will never be anybody's cat. It just will never be a.
What's not going to be an Avengers?
It's not going to be a commercial.
I mean, it's just not
big popcorn movie. I mean, it could.
And we're only talking about the top 10 films in these. Yeah. And I will also say, in 1981, there wasn't a big independent film scene.
Right.
No, there's some gold in 81.
Gold. But what I'm saying is that in a lot of these people, the guy who wrote Arthur, who wrote Stripes, who wrote Time Bandits, like those guys probably still exist in 2011, but they're making movies for a lesser budget. And like Terry Gilliam made Time Bandits, right? Yeah. Terry Gilliam now is still making movies, but they're not going to be top 10 grossing, because now there's an avenue where he can make a more niche-y film that he wanted to make anyways, not have to make it as commercial as Time Bandits was, and still have enough of an audience to keep on making movies.
I think, Jason, me personally, I think you hit the nail on the head as far as just where the studios are at with knowing what they have to make financially for them to actually make profit and put them into the black. They have to be these sequels and movies that are just bigger and better, and they need to bring directors in who are going to be like, they need to get, like Avengers 2 is going to just be insane based off Avengers 1, and they're just going to keep trying to build on that.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think it just comes down to, like, the audience, today's general global movie audience loves spectacle. Loves big popcorn. Like Transformers, even the first one to me, while, okay, yes, technically that was a first one, so it was a risk. It wasn't. It was a slam dunk CG generated robot movie. Like, of course everybody's going to love that movie. It didn't matter how good or bad it was.
For what it was sick. Yeah. For what I like going to see movies like that for, it was insane. The first when he transformed the first time, dude,
Yeah.
goosebumps, and my wife's cracking up, and she looks at my arm, she's like, "You're such a kid."
So,
I'm like,
like-
yes, this is amazing.
So of the movies that are listed, look at 1981 and look at the ones that were big spectacle craziness versus not.
Well,
And
that's what I
think-
mean. Like maybe your Raiders of the Lost Ark and your
Cannibal
Superman
Run.
2. Yeah. The others were like Stripes. There were comedies. You know what I mean? There was a couple dramas I think in the list as
There's
well.
Chariots of Fire. That's it. On Golden Pond.
Now here's another thing too, Adam, and I really want your perspective on this. Is there something to be said about you have a pool of talent in an entertainment industry, and that pool of talent will shift depending on where the most creativity is. And so what I think we're personally viewing right now is not only a hesitancy in green lighting productions because of ballooning costs, but also a pool of your really talented writers and creators have actually navigated to television. And some of the most innovative
true.
stuff
Here's
is happening in television.
This is a good segue, too, because I read another article today that I didn't put up, but it was a comparison. So 2011, 43 new TV shows started. 19 got greenlit for season 2.
Wow.
And it's like, it's that same kind of just huge risk with everything. I mean, whether more I think the problem is the shows that are getting your 11, 10, 9, I mean, besides, they're all competition. They're all reality. Like, Revolution got
that blew up.
Revolution got 15 million.
I heard that. Yeah, I heard that
But,
was really good actually.
I watched it, and
Is it not good?
I think the problem is it's a very hard world to buy into because they have a very strict
of
set of
TV?
rules. Well, like, it's a society that has no power, but there's a lot of gray that it feels like they don't. And this is one episode, very judgmental one episode, but it feels like they're not sticking to their own rules. I don't know. That's a vibe I got where it's like.
I kind of just felt like the actors didn't feel like they were in that world.
Yeah,
they didn't believe they were in that world.
It was a very.
A world of like no electricity.
Yeah,
no
it was just a
electricity.
It was a very bizarre.
Is this the J.J. Abrams show?
It's produced by him.
I mean,
yes.
who knows how involved it's nowadays. I just feel like
They seem
Produced
really
his name.
clean in the trailer.
yeah,
Like,
and it was just like there was a weird one.
well.
Like there was just like kind of throwaway lines where one of the guys is like, "Yeah, I was worth
do.
30 million. I was at Google," and it's like, what? Like you
Yeah.
just don't buy them as people in this world.
Those shows scare me because I mean, sure you can have a loss, but there were sections of Lost that even no pun intended, lost me on the fact of you have these amazing ideas for a TV show, but a majority of us in here, having done effects and done this kind of work, and know what needs to go in there to make something look pretty spectacular that draws your eye. They don't have turnaround like that in TV, period. And the guys who I know at Zoic who do the majority of these TV shows will tell you, we just have to do it. We maybe have one review session. Whatever comes out of me next is what goes on TV because they don't have time. And I see a show like that I'm like, that is a badass idea. Just the premise to me would be a great movie. But
Yeah.
okay, you're going to do a TV show and you got some actors I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, and
You
I-
need to make the effects or something stand out to where I'm in it.
The
And
worlds
I
were
worry
great.
Yeah,
about
the
that.
The worlds were great.
Everything
The
looked-
They did
setting-
do good?
It
Okay.
was the actors and the girl. I'm not, and
Not
I'll give
convinced
this
yet.
one. I'll give this one a season,
Right.
Just because I love the concept.
Yeah.
it's a great concept. And I'll say the other show. There have been a couple shows where effects first season were kind of questionable. I don't know if anybody's watched Grimm, but that show's awesome. I mean, that show is one that doesn't take itself too seriously, and the effects are pretty poor. Like you can know that their budget was low and they tried, and
Yeah,
it's not great. But you just deal with it, and you're just like, okay, like that's not gonna.
And I feel for those guys who have to do it
Yeah.
because more than even budget, sometimes it is just a time constraint.
yeah.
They have a
which
very quick turnaround. They
relates
need to get these
you
done.
know, but the other one that I got into that I just kind of I think I found out has been canceled is Falling Skies, which
That's
I
the
heard
alien
that
one
was
on
good.
TNT,
It is
right?
Had you seen that show?
fantastic.
Yeah, I watched it.
I liked it. Did you like it?
I liked it, although it very much seems like a soap opera for men.
And it got, but like this is the funny thing.
I mean, me and Kearney
But
looked
this
at
is
each other
the funny
like, we're
thing.
doing
Walking
this.
But this is the funny thing is like Walking Dead. And I will try again. I'll watch it again when there's more in a row. But like that frustrated me to no end because of how petty everybody was. And
Did you watch the first season? Did you get to the second season?
I got like 2 or 3 episodes into the second
Okay.
season. I need to give it.
You need to give because
I
I
do.
watched the first season, put it down, did not
That's
keep
exact-
watching
yeah.
it, and then about a year later, after the second season had ended,
That's what I need to do.
There was nothing left, and on the Xbox they had like a sale on it, and I was like, I'll watch watch it.
Yeah.
And loved it once I got like 6 episodes into the second season.
And that's what I think I need
What
to
are we
do.
talking about?
You have-
Walking Dead?
Walking Dead. You
Oh,
have to
okay.
get to like
Yeah.
episode 8 before anything really happens.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a bunch of people catting at each other.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
I mean, it's a soap opera for guys. That's the perfect
is.
way to
This is
describe
exactly
it.
what it
But
is.
we need love too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why are we over second? I love that TV has tried to do that a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tried to bring it back around instead of like I don't know about you guys. I remember when my mom, she loved Dallas and she loved all those kinds of shows back in the day that were geared, no offense to, even at night, women watching TV.
Yeah.
I don't know if they just thought dads at the time would just be liquored doing some shit, playing
Beating their
cards
kids.
every night of the week.
Yep.
So, no, honestly, I think back now about it, there really weren't shows besides for sports for
Yeah.
men. You had cop shows. I don't even think men really watched those either.
Chips.
I don't think men watched those.
Women watched.
I think women were the main.
Are you kidding me? You know how tight those clothes
Eric
were?
Yeah.
Estrada?
Yeah.
I think women were their main demographic forever, and it's funny now to really think back and see an absolute shift in the people. Even at Comic-Con, which I'm hoping to get Jason to this year, the panels and stuff.
depends.
It's a lot of men and guys who are there rooting their shows on compared to just girls who want to see these shows.
But this is the frustration. I mean, I'm sure everybody that I feel like in the last 4 years, it is so hard to find a show that's going to go longer than 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
like
true.
you get into it, and I for whatever reason I'm really into Falling Skies, and it's like I burn through.
I blame the soap opera aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like, I lose interest in it, and the reason I lose interest in it is there's very cool stuff that happens.
Yeah.
But that very cool stuff is like 1/10
Yeah,
or
and it's
1/20th of
like
the
the
show.
shows,
The rest of it is everyone talking about their feelings and standing like close up, but you can only take so much of that before you have to actually advance the story.
Yeah.
People have a
And-
lot of feelings, though.
Then you got a show like
So many
Revenge
feelings.
that Sean loves, and that's going on season 3. So
That's a soap opera for
Revenge.
now, but see,
for
but if,
girls, that's just a normal. Soap
but if
opera.
you take
soap opera.
if you
So-
take the TV model American Horror Story did, which was one of the
Yes.
best shows on TV, and
They're
you
doing
say,
a cool thing.
and right up front, they say to the cast even, we were doing this based on one season,
Yeah.
and there's going to be a finish and an
Yeah.
end. And every episode, if for anybody who's watched this,
So-
was a damn season finale.
Do you hear
every
what
episode.
Season
Wire-
2 is, though?
The
But that's
Wire
what's
was
amazing.
very
Yes, it's
similar.
a psych war. The psych war.
But yeah,
Yeah.
but the Wire though
The thing that I liked
kept
about,
consistent.
The thing
This
that I like
doesn't.
about The Wire, though, is every season had its own arc and story.
Yeah.
And you got through the whole thing, and the next one was like, all right, we're going to look at a completely different aspect.
And I think there's something
of
to
this
that.
world.
I think
Yeah.
that works
Right?
well.
I felt the same way about 24. Each one could have ended and done just fine because that was a complete thought.
This was my complaint about 24 is that seasons 1 through 3 probably were all that like, oh fuck, this is crazy. And then season 4 I was like, oh yeah, halfway through they're gonna realize it's the Russians with nukes. Yeah. Halfway through it's the Chinese with nukes. Halfway through it's this with nukes.
problem.
Oh, so you think it's like
When you start getting formulaic, then
Yeah.
you lose some
I mean,
of
but
your
like that was
audience.
what 24 did. It was like
Yeah.
you'd be like, yes. Fuck, it did it again.
Fringe-
It got me again.
You know, Fringe
the
has done
Floridians
that.
with
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Falling Skies
But I
started doing
think
that in the second
The cook
season.
Jason knows with nukes.
No, but I think the thing is
Chef.
that with those, it's too many episodes per season, which is why I like cable shows better. Is that I think 10 to 12 episodes a season
Dude,
and more
HBO
seasons.
kills it.
And that's why HBO does
Kills
it right,
it.
AMC
Kills
does it
it.
right. They get
Absolutely
that idea.
kills
And The
it.
Wire was great because it was 12 episodes. It built like a book. So the first 4, you're like, what the hell's going on? And then it all tied up in the last 3 episodes. You're on the edge of your seat. And then it was over.
What the fuck? I'm
Yeah.
like 10 episodes in. I've not watched. I'm 10 episodes into the first season.
And
like,
you
I'm
finally
freaking, it's
care,
like,
right?
But I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like the ABC,
Like, they better not
CBS,
fucking shut down this
NBCs
case.
are trying to catch up
They don't get it.
to the HBOs, to the AMCs,
But you know
which
what
are
they
just
should be paying attention
FX,
to
which are
is
killing it.
BBC. Because what BBC does is everything's like 6 episodes long.
Yeah.
And it's even crazier because everything's a miniseries. And so like Luther is great. It's on Netflix. You can watch it. It's like 2 seasons and it's like 8 episodes. But you're hooked and you can plow through it on Netflix in a
I think
day.
the problem is like you look at these shows and it's like from a producer production standpoint where it's like, okay, I need to set up the infrastructure to shoot this, and I'm going to build this world, and you're telling me I'm getting 12 episodes and then I'm done. Like
Yeah.
no one's going to say, yeah, okay, let's build this epic thing, and then be like,
well.
Okay, but now think about a movie. 12 episodes
it's a
is
whole
12
different.
hours
It's a whole
long.
different. It's a different way they monetize stuff though. Like TV and movies don't monetize.
But see, it backfires too when they try to do one of the best shows that was on TV and had one of the highest production values, which sank it, was Rome. I don't know if anybody saw Rome that was on HBO. Well, Jason did, and I think you hit me up saying if I never want to see another penis again in my life.
Well, yeah, that's very true.
But it is amazing. But at the end
I
of
don't
the
think
day,
I've ever muttered those words.
at the end of
You're
the
a stronger man than I
Bring me
am.
more penis.
but at the end of the day, the show was amazing. The production value was
By the
through
way,
the roof,
that's
and
going
that's
to be
what
the
killed
title
it.
of this episode. Is Rome, too much penis.
They just didn't have the money to do all. They had high ratings, everything else. They couldn't afford to keep making
Penises
it.
cost money, dude.
I'm not gonna lie.
No, not to go on that tangent here, but Rome was incredibly overhyped. I didn't get that.
Oh,
show.
it's amazing, dude.
Incredibly
What about
overhyped.
Spartacus?
Love
Anybody watch that?
Spartacus.
I haven't
That show was
seen that.
Love
yet.
the
I haven't
first
seen
one.
that yet.
Yeah.
See it.
Then when the guy got his cancer, and the
Oh yeah.
the main
Yeah.
actor
Wait,
got
hey,
cancer.
don't-
Spoiler alert.
He
in
died.
real life.
No, in real life. No, like not in the show.
Oh.
That's
Spoiler
what.
alert.
The
Hey,
main
don't
act-
ruin real life.
Well,
Don't ruin real life.
No, that's
Hey,
what happened.
God
So
rest
they,
his soul.
Hey,
Don't tell me who the president is. Don't ruin real
Speaking
life.
of real life, I got to go to this video. I hope you guys actually watched it. Sean sent out because I watched it.
yes.
Okay, first, let me set this up. Let me set this up to start.
Loved it.
Let me
That
set
was
this
so
up to start out
fucking
with
good.
with
That was amazing. I
The-
agree.
I have to give props
there's
to
a-
Josh
there's-
Richards who found it.
There's a documentary film company who's on YouTube. They have a huge presence. They have their own website called Vice. And Vice does some of the best documentaries out there.
Is it always the same guy?
Period. No. It's
Okay.
different guys.
Okay.
And I want to set this up by saying, please go check out their channel on YouTube. Seriously, dude, you will get addicted. You watch one, and they're short. They're like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You watch one and be like, the next one's about like crack hose in the Bronx.
LCD Palace
The next
in
one's about
downtown New York.
buying nukes in Israel. You're like,
Yeah.
what? And you'll just keep watching them, and they're all fantastic.
hunting
this
crazy
one,
animals in Chernobyl.
Yes.
Yeah.
This one Sean sends out body armor and getting shot.
No,
I'm
bulletproof clothing.
Bulletproof clothing. I'm
It's-
like, what?
There's
the
this
fuck?
dude
Sean,
in
talk about
Colombia.
it.
There's this dude in Colombia who has been called the Armani, the armored Armani.
Yes.
because he makes fashionable bulletproof clothing. It's crazy for like heads of state, and like they're like,
And-
hey, I want to go hunting in my
and-
blazer, and I don't want it to.
But
be
they look like
big.
shirts.
I
I mean,
want to
so-
go hunting in my
some of them.
blazer.
Yeah.
No,
Who
no.
else? Hey,
Seriously.
Sean, who else does he also
Who's the
make
big
stuff
guy?
for?
Oh, Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
yeah, buddy.
That
But
guy
they-
Why
gets
does he
it.
need armor? But isn't he made of armor?
So the guy asked that question, and I guess a lot of people don't know that Steven Seagal actually helps train cops.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in
I've seen the
what
show.
is it,
I've
Mexico
seen
or
the
something
show.
like that? New Mexico,
Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Yeah, New Orleans, yeah.
New Orleans.
He's a. I've seen the show. Have you not seen that reality show?
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's bonkers.
But what
people
got me
hate
were
him
the
on the
shirts.
reality show.
It wasn't
Shirts.
just it wasn't just military garb
No.
vests that these people. He had designed actual shirts,
Kimonos.
all sorts of crap that I'm like, what?
So is this
Sean,
video-
go on about
Yeah,
it.
okay.
You got to hear this.
So this guy who's one of the Vice documentarians, whatever. He goes on a tour through this person's shop, and I guess there's some places where his store is a boutique on the same street as like a Porsche dealership, so it's like pretty high class stuff that this guy is producing. The really crazy fact is every employee in his company has been shot. Like that's one of the prerequisites.
That
of
is a
working on his
prereq.
stuff, is
If you wanna work there.
You test.
Wow.
that you put on.
Where's my water team?
Yes.
It's a prerequisite too. We have to have been shot. Jay was shot. Jay was shot in the left butt cheek. I was
Just
shot
some
in
of
the
the
head.
meat. Which is why I'm like this.
what was
Nerf
crazy
gun?
was the
With a
little tiny like secretary who's helping him into this thing. He's like,
He's like, so have you been shot? She's like,
oh,
oh yeah,
yes.
I've been shot.
Oh,
everyone,
yes.
everyone gets shot.
like, and the guy's still looking at him.
You
He's
see
like, this doesn't
dude
happen.
sitting
And then-
behind his desk like the Godfather, like, we have to shoot
Yes.
everyone.
Yeah, I think his exact words were, "I've shot every one of my employees."
Yeah.
I'm like, that's amazing.
Wait a second. I just understood what you guys were saying. So I thought it was a prerequisite of like they had to have like been in the streets and literally.
That's what I thought too. That's what I thought too. And then I started.
We only
I
hire
just
thugs.
hit him like in my face.
Like,
Like, just
formerly
they had
of
to
the
have, like,
mob.
lived
We only
through
take
it.
gang members
No,
and
this is
victims.
like, hey, you want to quit working at AT&T? Come over here and get shot.
Put this shirt on. Let me shoot you.
I mean, they go as far as what I thought was really interesting is they have like a panel with epoxy or something where they actually put the garments on,
like plaster,
and they test even when you get the material gets shot, the penetration depth and will that hurt you and everything else. And and they start loading this guy into this outfit. He's seen all this, and this little girl saying he's been shot. He's
So
like, this isn't
they
going to
put-
happen.
What do they put like a
button up. Like it's like a button up.
Like a
Short
jacket,
sleeve.
like a normal
Was it a
jacket.
jacket?
Yeah.
But it's like the crazy thing. You're not even talking about like
They
this.
have button-up dress shirts.
But
They're
like this bulletproof
and they're, like,
technology, the guy like
100
folds up
grams
and
or
is
something.
like
Yeah, it's
like-
crinkly.
like
It's not plates.
It's like
This
it's
isn't
not
plates. This isn't
Yeah,
plates
it's
at all.
super nuts.
And this guy, the owner,
It actually contains warp bubbles.
yes, the bullets never physically get there.
But the worst
Bullets bullets don't move.
There's
slow
a
down.
dude in Canada who keeps getting shot. God, I keep getting shot in my fucking foot.
But,
Yeah.
so at the end of the documentary, he talks about all of the guy goes through like this little magazine, like these people that
Presidents of countries.
presidents of Spain, whatever they have, they're his clients. So this guy puts on this jacket and zip it up or button it up.
This is a white guy who looks nothing different than all us nerds in
Yeah.
this room, mind you.
He's just a normal dude.
About our age.
Yeah,
And
same thing.
The guy pulls out his revolver. Looks like a 38, 38 long nose revolver, and here's the round, here's the ammo. Puts it in it, pops it, and he goes, okay. And he shows him what he's going to do before he has the gun in his hand. And say, okay, we're going to count to 3, and I'm going to say 1, breathe in, 2, 3, I fire. Okay, and you breathe in because when the bullet hit you, that all that
It's all in this
muscle,
kind of
all that
like
muscle
not
is
great
contracted
English. Like
already.
all of it is subtitled.
Yeah,
And he
all
has
muscle contracted. So
And he has a little
it doesn't
circle,
hurt.
like a target on the
I shoot
jacket.
you
He's like,
here.
I'm going to
I
shoot
shoot
you right
you
there.
here.
And the
And
guy's
the
like,
crazy
okay.
thing is the target is right at the
The base.
bottom of the bulletproof vest, like where it stops.
yeah. The very bottom.
So the guy's he's being very dramatic about putting the bullet in,
Oh,
making
oh.
sure everyone can see it.
And he says
closes
6
it.
feet. He goes, I'm going to shoot you. Originally in the story, it was like, I'm going to shoot you from 6 feet away. So I'm like, okay, well, he's a good distance, right?
He's
6 feet.
he points 6
makes me
inches
more nervous, I
away
think.
from the gun.
6 inches, no
6
doubt.
inches.
If that.
So he's like, okay, here we go. 1, breathe in. 2, boom! And he doesn't even count the third count. And at the end, the guy was like, "You did the pediatrician thing. You say one to, and then the doctor just sticks you." But you can see the guy.
The
shaking.
dude's
He
white.
was
The dude,
holding
the
up-
white guy's legs, like his,
shaking.
he's like, look at my
The
knee. It's
adrenaline's,
going
like,
crazy. He's
pumping.
like, I just was
and
shot.
He
I've
puts
always
the
heard-
spent cartridge in his hand, and you see there's the cartridge, and you can see his hand shaking.
He gives him the
on
bullet.
the camera.
They pull the bullet, and he's like, "Here you go. You can keep this."
Now, I've always heard that getting shot in a bulletproof vest feels like you've been hit by a baseball bat. Like it's got so
Knocks
much
the
force
wind
that
out
it
of you.
hurts.
What I've heard in
This-
the vest with the plates is what ends up doing
And this
that.
guy,
This guy
he
didn't even flinch.
He didn't flinch at all. He didn't even move backwards. It was just like, oh,
blinked.
that's it. Like,
He could have sneezed. You wouldn't even really
That
notice.
my understanding with that material, my sister who's in the military and does tours now to like FBI and CIA came onto her base to test their weapons. She was talking about the dragon skin, which is
Yeah.
very
That
similar to
shit is
that.
awesome.
Well, it's very similar to what he had. It's pliable, basically body armor that they can have. And she said that that's its design, or the way they explained to her, is to give, but to give it basically gives, but then it becomes very dense at the point of impact. So it gives, so it catches the bullet, but
it
becomes
actually
when it
gets
denses
harder.
up, it gets harder,
Yeah.
so that it doesn't penetrate. Like it won't go very far because the denseness catches it, but it gives just enough.
Because like a plate,
where you don't
think
feel
a
it the
plate,
same.
like,
So the thing that surprised me the most was when he said some of the prices of his products. He's like, oh yeah, this type of thing be anywhere from $300 to $3,500. I'm like, that's kind of cheap.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not that
for
much.
bulletproof clothing.
yeah.
He was talking about like
Affordable.
who his market might be for in the U.S. and he's like rappers.
That's what was funny. He said that. It's the hip hop
the
stars.
The hip hop industry.
Yeah.
I literally was just blown
That
away.
was a very entertaining.
But this,
Yeah,
this,
I-
no,
That
this
I
guy
could not
was
take my-
literally almost blown away.
Yeah,
This
no,
just we're
seriously.
excited.
This
I
was-
could not take my eyes off that.
well, this
movie.
was funny
need to
too.
watch that.
Is like, I think of just because I've had the crazy shoots we've done on Top Gear and
been
the
shot at.
insurance we've had to do. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine pitching that. And maybe they just don't have insurance. I don't know.
well, it's
but like,
Columbia.
well, no. It doesn't matter where you go. If they're an American
Oh, yeah,
company,
yeah, sure,
they
totally.
have insurance.
Yeah.
And like literally, we've gotten shut down because it's like, no, you can't drive that fast on that road. We won't insure you. It's going to cost you, $150,000 just to get a binder for that. And so I can't imagine this little. It's like, here's our idea, guys. Hey, Geico. I don't know what insurance company. they have.
Geico. It's Geico.
Geico.
Let's go with Geico.
I'm gonna go get shot.
Just a generic. Hey, so here's the host of our show. If he dies, we won't have a show anymore. So there's that to think about. We want to shoot him.
Well, they're covered because he's not the only one.
So that
they're
actually,
good.
they might.
Well,
be
it's funny. He
okay.
goes,
think it's probably-
He's
and
expendable.
this is my mom's least favorite documentary I've ever done.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, this is my
It's
least favorite
probably
episode.
actually not that big a deal because this is a professional company.
Doesn't matter. It like that is such a very. I mean, maybe it doesn't matter, but like that just seems like such a very like something goes slightly wrong. Where
So
he
the
just-
insurance
It's
company.
not like
He's
I
probably
understand
firing
if you
low
were.
velocity rounds too.
When I
It
can-
is the
Really.
best case scenario for that. I'm sure.
I could understand if if this guy was like, hey, I met some guys who make bulletproof armor out of their garage. But this is like a professional company that makes body
And I'm
armor
willing
for
to
the
live.
world.
I will
Excuse me.
say. I just will say.
Every one of the employees has been shot.
An insurance
Yeah.
company, the conversation where you're like, okay, hey guys,
That's,
you're sitting
yeah.
in an office somewhere. You're doing your risk assessment. Oh, you want to shoot someone? Like, that just red flags across the board. Probably not okay.
Let me ask you guys this. Is there anybody in this room who would do it?
Get shot?
Jay. Wow, really?
Yeah.
I would do it.
At a company like that?
I've jumped out of an
Sure.
airplane. I'd do that.
You wouldn't. Carter, you wouldn't do it.
First of all, he was shooting the guy in the hip. Like,
No, it was,
You're missing
it was
the
organ.
Am
It
I the only
wasn't
one here?
hip.
He
was
was
the meaty
getting
spot.
shot
Yeah,
at
yeah.
about, like you said, 6 inches away.
at a body armor company.
You ever see that dude?
Let's be like this. Hey, would you ever go skydiving with professional skydivers? I mean, come on now. That's tough.
I haven't done it. Now, Jay obviously is our dedicated, man of mystery.
Man of mystery. I was in New Zealand.
007.
Oh, it's
That's
different
even
down there.
worse. And that's what I don't like about this one too. Is I am fearful of going to a hospital in a country that doesn't predominantly speak English.
Yes.
Because I'm terrified. Not that I
Including
have,
Canada.
Including Canada.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that
no, you're
I
better
won't
off
be able
in
to
Canada than you are here.
understand what a doctor's saying. If a guy's gonna shoot me, I want to make sure that we speak the same language perfectly so that I can understand the intricacies
I
of
gotta
what
be
he's
quite
about to
honest.
tell
He
me.
shoots you, it goes through. It's a pretty quick conversation. I've been shot. See? End of
Your armor
story.
doesn't work.
Actually, I'm pretty sure you
Broke.
Can, yeah.
I
Pretty
would
sure
like
you
a
can
refund.
communicate that without words.
Yeah.
You guys, did
Ow.
you guys ever see the videos of that one guy who was trying to convince the police that they should buy body armor? He's like the pioneer in creating body armor.
That's
This
not
dude,
that's not the dude
I
who had
think
the
it's the
bear
dude-
suit, right? Who-
No, it's the dude, I think he was.
It's the guy with all the question
I think
marks
he was
on
from
his
Texas.
shirt.
This is like the
Sells
80s or
that
90s,
book.
the very early, late 80s, early 90s, where this dude was developing body armor, like his own body armor, and he would do demos in front of the police, and he would shoot himself with a 45 in front of the police to show this will save your life. You need this stuff. The dude was crazy. You can find it.
There you go.
But he's a
he
rich
believed-
man now.
But he believed in it so much that he was willing to shoot himself to prove to the police.
Now, is this what they use now? Was he like
Yeah,
the guy
this
who
was like
started
the
all this?
vest.
Actually, no, it's just
Started
phone
the
books
vest.
made into a jacket.
But no, I would if
Mythbusters
I'm the guy who purchases for the police. At that point, what I do is they go, "Hey, this guy shot himself. We should buy his body armor." And I go, "I will not buy a damn thing from anyone who shoots themselves but thinks they need to shoot themselves to prove to me anything."
So let me ask you this: what if he put his body armor on his dog and he just took his dog around with him and shot his dog?
I'd respect him a little bit more, which is crazy to think.
It's a moving target. Dude.
Yeah.
Dog's not going to sit still.
that
for
point,
that.
I'd
I
be
don't
like-
care.
How about could you
You are
get
a
Captain
horrible
Jack?
person.
Well, no,
Could
but
you get
think about
Captain Jack
this.
in the old body armor and run around the house?
Definitely
Well,
not. He'd
imagine,
fall over.
imagine the demo though, and how that would go over. I'm going to shoot myself in front of you, and I'm going to survive it. And this should prove to you
stand
that
a
No, no
you
doubt,
need this
no
shit,
doubt.
Right?
If that,
But you're
yeah.
crazy. It also proves that you're crazy.
Would you
When
care? No. Sean's on to something. Do you care? I
that
mean, if it's
point,
going to
I
take a
do.
shot at that
crazy,
close,
crazy, not stupid.
No, I don't know. I think the thing is I go, well, why don't you just, if you're so friggin' smart, you invented this body armor, why didn't you build a stupid crash test dummy that you can shoot?
don't you
no,
hire someone
but you know
else
what?
to
Yeah,
shoot
hire
it?
over an egg and
There's
shoot the egg.
something to what Sean's saying though, and it's back to even the Vice guy.
Yeah.
I stand
When you take it up and
100%
exactly,
behind my
even
own
the
thing.
owner of the
Yeah.
body,
And
he
he
had
talks
been
about
shot
that in
twice.
his
He's
videos.
like,
Well,
there's
it's like-
something to
yeah.
that.
Have you seen that
You shoot a dummy, Sean. You don't know. I mean, you're looking at, you're like, oh, that's
The
safe.
dummy didn't. The
mannequin.
dummy didn't flinch at all.
Yeah.
But you see that
The hole's
that's
only this big. It's
the
great.
stuff behind. They had that iPhone case. There was that rubber that the second it impacted, it locked up, and so the guy wrapped it around his own hand and would just smash his hand with a hammer.
Yes, I saw that dude.
Where
That
it's like
dude's
it's
cool.
like this cool rubber where it's like Play-Doh when you move it slowly, but the second you do anything really really fast, it's solid.
There's a specific name for that type of material.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is, but it's.
Yeah,
And
you know
so
what it isn't? Glove.
The
Don't put
science,
it on your stupid hand.
the science project of the day will be: go take 1 cup of water and mix in half a cup of cornstarch,
Yes.
and you will create this
goo.
the concoction
Oh yeah.
that has similar
That my
properties.
daughter
I
loves
don't
playing with.
Yeah.
know if
What
I
if
would
that you
smash
can-
my hand with a hammer.
No,
with that.
this is semi-unrelated, but it's a similar
Don't do
substance
that.
where if you let it sit in your hand, it will leak through like liquid. But if you were to like pass it
Yeah.
back and forth, it's like a
That's what they did with
You can-
Mythbusters.
Yeah,
where
you
they
can-
walked
down
the-
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can run on it, and the
Super
faster the
legit.
impact,
Yeah, the harder it gets,
resistance
yeah.
is, so.
But just the thing is, if you need to attempt to inflict bodily harm upon yourself in order to sell me something, you're doing a piss poor job of selling your
See,
product.
I don't know.
I think it's
I
the
don't know.
exact
I think it's the
opposite.
opposite.
I
But
think
that's the
exact
point,
opposite.
Sean.
Salesman.
That's
When
a great
someone's
point.
lives on the line, maybe not.
But there
Yeah.
was no bodily harm. That's the whole point.
But
He's
you're risking it.
it and selling you on the fact that, look, I took a risk, no problem.
Well, look at it
Paid
from his
off.
perspective. He didn't think it was a risk.
He didn't think it was a
because
risk
he
at all.
believed in. He knew that it was going to work. Right?
I just think
So
what you need
At what
to
point
do-
do you take that as like a I know this and you don't yet, so I'm going to show you.
Not to bring it back to Apple, but if you look at Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, I think this guy needs a Steve Jobs. Steve Wozniak's
Apple has
the
not
genius,
once said this is going to stop a bullet.
But that's the thing. Because
But it
Wait
will.
wait till iOS 7.
Yeah.
It's an iPhone 5 thing. The
Yeah,
4
the 5s
4S,
are
you're
bulletproof.
screwed. 5, I heard
Hey,
it takes a
crazy
bullet.
Not the next
creative
phone,
people.
but the next software update
Will be
It'll
bulletproof.
be bulletproof.
Pretty bulletproof.
So speaking of bulletproof, let's talk about Sean, the Arduino Bear.
Boom, boom.
He's been eyeing me the whole show going, Jack, just give it to me.
Because this is the second time I've posted a video of an Arduino bartender.
By the way, I was so tempted to send out, hey guys, we're switching up our podcast topic formula just so that we wouldn't be able to get to your
Because I
No
gotta
Arduino
say,
topics, period.
No, Evernote. We're switching to Word.
Because we were using one way of doing things, and I found an Arduino. Okay, hold on. I didn't know what Arduino even meant. I didn't even know it was a word until
Well, explain it to people who
Jason
probably
Carter
don't know.
and Jay Pecco had a conversation where they explained that it's this crazy thing that you can like program little servos.
Well,
To, like,
that's summed it up to everybody who's listening.
So here's the thing. So
I actually have one at home.
So, yeah,
I'm
like
not
a-
good with it, but I have one.
But yeah, an Arduino is you can program like electronic things. So when you look, or
Let me
actual,
give you
like, physical objects.
Let me give an example.
Yes.
My office at DreamWorks, not here, but I had a parrot that would sit on top of my desk, and at the press of a button that was wired down this pole in my desk, the bird would poop out white Tic Tacs,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
and that was all done with an Arduino.
And so an Arduino,
Which
you,
is a small board. It's a
a
small
small board.
electronic
It's a
board for
U-
people
USB,
listening. It's like a
It is a
microcontroller.
microcontroller.
and
So
you can make
can-
kind of like
yeah, you-
cool. What are those things
Shit.
called? Like
Things?
shit. I was gonna say
well,
like,
circuit
bird
board.
shit.
animatronic.
You can
type
design
deals.
circuit boards
Yes.
with it.
And so these guys geeked out about this Arduino thing, and I thought it was cool. I'm like, oh, that's crazy! You can make like robots, and so I got excited about that. And I went,
Who doesn't
what?
love a robot?
Yeah. But I was like,
Curry's
what would
got
I
it all
want
figured out.
a robot to do in my life? And I was like, what if it was a bartender? That would be amazing. And so I found
you
an
want some
article
more?
about a bartender.
You went down the rabbit hole.
I went down the rabbit hole, found one article about a guy who in his garage made an Android bartender, which was kind of
Arduino.
cool.
Kinda
No,
cool.
Arduino, but
there was one
his
that made it
looked
look like an Android, and it
Yeah.
had like you could like
Yeah.
scan things, and
Yeah.
it was like I'm sorry, you're not old enough to drink because I've given you this ID card, and that
It had
says
like
you-
RFID
Yeah,
and all this
it was
shit.
crazy.
It was super cool. But it was not a teddy bear. And so this one I found is a teddy bear, and you breathe into the teddy bear, and it knows if you're sober enough to have another drink.
Teddy Ruxpin.
And it cuts you off.
It's the cheesiest
So-
little fucking bear. You can't
so
express.
cool.
The link will be up, and you can look for yourself.
Teddy
So
Ruxpin.
electronics
Gotta love it.
Electronics 101 are that there's these little individual electronic sensors, right? Whether it be a light sensor or a heat sensor, or like in the case of an iPhone, it's like a touch sensor. And so basically there's a piece of computer somewhere that takes input from these sensors and does something to another set of stimuli. Like in this case, you could touch something, and if it sensed something, you could then tell it move a motor if it sensed that you had touched a button or something. So this whole thing, this little bear, the fact that you can breathe on it, it has a little sensor that detects the level of alcohol in your breath. So that is a sensor, just like any other electronic sensor, and the Arduino is capable of talking to any and all of them. And so this guy pretty much took this little thing and programmed this deal. So I'll let you continue, but that one piece of it is simply one part of, like, it's just one sensor that looks
Can
for
it
input.
only
Make it
like,
sound
it can
so
only make
simple.
like one drink?
It is
though, right?
simple.
It is a robot that can smell your breath and know if you're sober enough to
And
drink.
it's a comfy teddy bear that you may want to cuddle
Thank
up
you,
on.
Adam. Do not ever downplay
I
this.
know.
So
What's
I
it
saw
called?
that.
What's it called? It's called the.
It's called like the drunk Ruxpin. There's like
no.
this-
Drunky
The
Ruxpin?
So Bear.
No, the
the
So
So
Bear.
Bear.
So Bear.
Yeah.
And they said one of the fake names for it was Teddy Drunkspin.
So I saw that, and that inspired me, and I was like, what? And I showed it to the guy next to me, and it happened to be the same day he found a link for an R2D2
I saw that
kegerator
one. I saw
that
that
is
one.
fully motorized. The
Oh
head
my
turns.
God.
That thing was goddamn badass. Like, it was basically, they took your Arduino bear and it was like, well, yeah, we could do that. Or we could fucking make an R2 unit that gives us beer. I was like, holy shit, this thing is awesome.
I want to see one of those things that shoots like the stream of beer out, so you can just be like, oh.
I saw. Did anybody go on Uncrate where they saw? So it's a popcorn machine, and it can tell you what do. You say pop, and it judges where you are and how far away you are, and it will shoot one piece of popcorn at you.
Awesome.
Wow.
So there's a whole table of guys around a table, and they were going like there was a machine at the end. One would go pop, and it would go poof, and just shoot across.
Oh, it would know like where you were talking from?
It judges where you are, and so it can spin 360 degrees, so it judges where you are and how far away you are, and it'll go boop.
That's so great.
That is actually amazing.
And that's what that like.
Just thinking about the
actually
math
amazing.
behind
I know, I'm like-
triangulating where a voice has come from and
Not to mention
firing
shooting
something
popcorn. That's hard to throw.
Yeah.
But the big thing is
Yeah.
with all this is we were talking before, like a couple weeks ago, we were talking about NASA and like why NASA is important, and it's important because it's getting kids interested in science and things like that.
Because of Drunk Bear.
Dude, tell an 18-year-old kid that there is an R2 unit that if you learn science and math and programming,
You
learn
can get
drunk.
drunk very way
With
cooler
R2-D2.
We lose because you believe in the science.
We all go to college.
Can you do me a huge favor? Can you not teach my kids anything?
All right, if
great.
you don't want them to be interested in awesome science.
Interesting.
One last thing as we wrap the show up and back to our good buddy R2D2, Jason Carter, our honorary pirate.
We made it through almost the whole thing.
It is Talk Like a Pirate Day.
International
Is it
Talk
really?
Like a Pirate Day.
It is.
September
It is.
19th.
It is. And
I feel like that was just like last week.
It's every week.
Is it?
well, Jason lives his life that way.
I do.
Either sweet like the Scottish pirate.
Are you brave?
Oh, I love you.
All
Always
good
have.
pirates have a little bit of Scottish, Irish,
And maybe not all people on here know, but if you go to the website and you look at our About page and see pictures, you might see Jason dressed up at Halloween or realize that's not Halloween. That is Jason.
On a motion picture set?
Could be. Jason,
on
on
a
what,
Thursday, I thought.
on what movie did you work on?
That was last week.
I was a member of Johnny Depp's crew on Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides.
No way.
Now,
Really?
what second on the Blu-ray do
all I
you have
had.
to pause it, and how far do you have to zoom in?
At World's End, not on Stranger Tides.
so
sorry.
at World's
It's a big one.
End, how far into the movie?
If you go to the very end, like probably 10 minutes left in the film,
And zoom in like 40 times.
on a Blu-ray only.
On a 4K, one of the upright Blu-ray.
That's why you need a 4K.
Because
It's
otherwise,
not true.
it
You can
just looks
actually-
like blurry faces.
You could DVD looks like blurry faces. Blu-ray, you can definitely tell it's me.
Wait a second. I've seen pictures of it, and there's no way you can tell it's you.
No, you can't.
If you see the picture,
If you know
it's
what to look for.
amazing what they made you look like. You do not look like Jason
That was
Carter.
all his own
You
facial
look-
hair.
Well, that's his
Oh,
beard.
eyes.
That was
That's
his beard.
real beard, yeah.
That's what's
Really?
crazy about that image. That was,
I had a
You grew it out for that?
I had a beefy
which is
beard.
awesome.
How long did it take you?
That was 3 years. You started
Well,
with the first Pirates
we
movie.
originally were actually no. It was in the beginning of the second one, right when the second one was filming, and they filmed 2 and 3 sort of back to back, but there was like a year and a half while they were making both. So it was about a year and a half's worth of beard.
Wow. This is like 1 month, basically.
oh, me too.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Me too.
Maybe a month and a half.
God,
too.
you crazy bastards. Hey, I want to give a quick shout out before we also end to the additional 24, 25 people who gave us likes on Facebook. Thank you guys for the love on Facebook.
Katie. I saw Katie do it.
I love,
this on
dude. I love you
Facebook.
guys. I love you guys. Keep giving us the likes if you can. Go to our YouTube page. Check that out. Give those likes. Subscribe to it.
Can they unlike and then relike? Does that help us at all?
No, that actually I think works against us. I'm not too
'Cause I
sure,
was
but
just-
it seems
I was just
wrong.
clicking
Fairweather
like,
friends are a negative on Facebook.
Yes, we don't want you. Side note, though, our own Sean Fennell has been working on a forum for our show
So
to be able to open
We're
up.
thinking podcast is a good forum.
Yeah,
Oh, jokes.
So we're
Sean, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm hoping to launch a forum site for the podcast because I think one of the things that we want to get a little bit more involved in is the listener base and have
Both
them
of you?
be able to, all 4 of you, have you guys easily discuss stuff and request topics and other things like that that we can moderate and watch on and just have a little bit more of a community.
And easier for
And
respond to
delete
you guys
if they
as well.
don't align with our own views, stuff
Totally,
like that we
yeah.
can really just make sure everybody
Slowly
agrees
take
with
over
us.
the world is
Yeah.
kind of my goal.
And since
One
we
post at a time.
since we're now recording in a
Worthwhile.
theater tonight, we're thinking about creating a live stage show.
I've got a
Jason,
costume.
can you give him a little taste?
This doesn't even have a stage.
Stage.
We are on the stage.
This would be the stage.
All the world.
The world.
Stage.
Oh, damn you!
Oh, was that your quote you were holding on
The
to?
world is our stage.
Jay's been sitting there overnight. I'm
Waiting
going to use
for it.
this. I'm going to use this.
We butt players.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Tastic in 3D, episode number 40. My name is Jason Carter.
Adam McFarland.
Sean Fennell.
Sean Carney.
Jason Pecco.
Jack Geckler.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Tastic, tastic, tastic.